Welcome, everybody. It's episode 281 of the Severe MMA podcast. My name is Sean Sheehan. I am joined today by Graham McDonald. As always, as we look ahead to Bellator Dublin next week and look back on the UFC from last week as well. But before we get into all of that, this episode of the podcast is brought to you by our friends over at Manscaped. And don't wait till your trouser devils are more disorderly than Manchester United. Although we're back a little bit this season. Bring your below the waist to the top of the table with Manscaped. Use Lawnmower 4.0 to show off your moderate level ball skills and ensure your member will be Luka good. No? Okay. Man City have won the Premier League, but your Man City will be the champion this year when you go to manscaped.com and enter the code SevereMMA for 20% off and free delivery on your order. Myself and Graham have been using Manscaped now for well over a year, and they've been great supporters of us, so please support them. And all their stuff is really good. You know, I've had Manscaped stuff literally for probably 18 months and it's still going strong like it did on day one. It's absolutely brilliant. And if you want to try out Manscaped, I would suggest going for that performance package. It's a real deal. The ultimate grooming package for a champion. Included is the greatest ball hair trimmer ever created, the Lawnmower 4.0. Also the Weed Whacker for your nose and ear hair. Multiple ball formulations and a shed travel bag, as well as the boxers. The package stars their redesigned electric trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. This trimmer is simply the best hygiene tool to keep the grass on the pitch to perfect glint. Jurgen Klopp would absolutely love that. The Lawnmower 4.0 ceramic blades reduce nicks and cuts in your most sensitive regions. This revolutionary tech is the best defense you could find for your Virgil van Dijk balls. They need to change that now, as Virgil van Dijk can't really defend anymore. But anyway, your Tyrell Maladika. I know. I don't know what you're doing there. Who else have we? Martin. No, there's nothing coming to mind there. The trimmer's battery also lasts 90 minutes, so it's absolutely perfect. You can do it for the entire soccer match if you want, with a little bit of a water break in the middle, of course. Their performance package also comes with the Weed Whacker nose and ear hair trimmer, which is waterproof and uses a 9,000 RPM motor powered 360 degree rotary dual blade system. Weed Whacker also has a proprietary skin safe technology which helps prevent nicks, snags and tugs into those delicate holes. And you can't forget about the liquid formulation as well. My personal favourite, absolutely love them. Use a crop cleanser to clean your body, as well as the crop preserver to keep fresh and a crop reviver to give your balls a good half-time boost. Put the ball back in Ballon d'Or and make sure your hardware stays shiny with the performance packages crop preserver, anti-chafing ball deodorant and crop reviver spray toner as well. The package is head to toe top class and an easy choice for the best footballers in Europe. So get 20% off and free delivery with the code SevereMMA at manscaped.com. That is 20% off with free delivery using the code SevereMMA at manscaped.com. Celebrate a new season of the beautiful game with your newly beautiful balls. All right, Graham, let's get directly into it here. Let's talk about Bellator Dublin.
Before we do, I'd say somebody could mash up the Manscaped snippets out of context and make a very funny Sean Sheehan audio clip. Feel free to do that if you have some spare time on your hands.
We should we should run a competition. Best audio bit. How much should we pay? We pay 25 quid. Whoever comes up with the best audio, but if you come up with a shitty one now, you get nothing.
We better give them like a t-shirt or something better.
I think I have one t-shirt left, maybe. The t-shirt's nearly gone, so can't be good at t-shirts. But we'll give you something anyway, lads. Don't worry, I'll give you a follow on Twitter. But there's actually, have I an audio bit for today? I must actually, we'll see. You'll see in about 20 minutes if I have a good audio bit for today anyway. But yeah, that's actually a good idea. There is loads of stuff there from the men's game. I was thinking as well, there's probably like years of us rowing about Man United and Liverpool at the end of the podcast.
Okay. Well, what was the podcast we had where people were like messaging, being like, "Oh, like don't argue or whatever. Hopefully everything's okay or whatever."
Yeah,
what were we even talking about?
They thought we were falling out. That's fucking hilarious. That is actually hilarious.
Because you hear us on the phone to each other during football matches or fucking whatever. Like, Jesus Christ.
Like, to be fair, you're way better at taking it than me because, like, during the Man United match, I just stop replying to you. At least you kind of keep replying when I'm just obviously trolling you as well. That's brilliant.
Can't help myself.
You are better than me at that, to be fair. Or I like sometimes as well when there's a match on or even the fight on, I just kind of put my phone away and enjoy it as well. Whereas I would say you're not a person who enjoys Liverpool matches.
Well, sometimes I do, but then like I do get a lot of messages as well, and sometimes like a lot of messages come in, and there's been an incident, and I know what it's going to be about, and it's like, oh, what are people saying about this? I know you're saying the opposite of like, whatever goes against Liverpool, but like other people like who are like Aston Villa fans or whatever might have a neutral view on what was happening.
I have a neutral view sometimes.
Your hatred for Liverpool and Klopp and all that, I think clouds your. That's part of football. That's part of the enjoyment of football.
We have to do a second football podcast soon. We won't be getting into it here now, lads. Don't worry, but we'll have to do one soon. You've been very quiet about it recently after Man United beat Liverpool. But anyway, we'll leave that. We won't say much more about it. But sure, look, we might as well talk about Bellator Dublin anyway, which goes down from the Tree Arena this Friday. The two of us are going to be there, Graham. I'm looking forward to this. Do you know what? It might be, I said this before, but it might be one of the last shows that I'm going to be able to go to that Bellator, keep putting them back regularly, just because the prices of hotels in Dublin it's absolutely and utterly scandalous altogether. But look, we're looking forward.
I got a half decent, half broken, half decent sofa bed here for you, Sean. I'm sure your back wonders.
I'm okay now. That's all right. Going to Dublin is bad enough. You know, I have my shots already got since last week, but before I go up, sleeping on like a sofa bed or someone's spare room is like, if I'm going to Dublin, I either get the Gibson Hotel or the one across the road, or I'm not fucking going there, just because I'm not going through Dublin. I'm not going on the Lewis. You
can even just get one out here, like, you know, get a normal hotel on the bus line or on the Lewis or Dart line that brings you right in there, and you're laughing, like, you know what I mean?
No, I'm not laughing, because then I have to go through Dublin and there's 10,000 people.
For like 15 minutes.
Yeah, fuck that. Yeah, that's terrible. That's exactly what I want to avoid. I don't want to be in Dublin.
If Bellator had it their way, you'd be interviewing fighters while you're getting to the hotel.
They listen to this now. Don't be calling out this. But yeah, look, we won't get into that now. I want to respect my friends over at Bellator. But yeah, look, we'll be above at Media Day on Wednesday. I'm sure there'll be a few pictures of Lewis and stuff after that as well. The weigh-ins. Hopefully I'll wake up early that morning to do them, and then we'll be there on Fight Day as well on Friday. So it should be fun. And do you know what? It's probably the best card Bellator I've ever put on in Ireland, to be fair. It's really, really, really good. In the main event, Vincent Henderson versus Peter Quilly. I spoke to both of them on the lead up to it. We've a massive fight between Romero and Melvin Manoff, and lots of the other Irish stars on the: Kieran Clark, Liam McCourt, Brian Moore, Dara Kelly, Kenny Muckahana, Carl Moore, and more. Asela Jew as well, who asked Peter Quilly the other day who's like the best guy in the gym on the way up, and he said Asela Jew, so that has me intrigued.
Isn't he like a French kickboxer?
Yeah,
high level kickboxer. Yeah. I've seen him spar. He's very good. I think he's very good. He looked very good in sparring anyway. Very quick on the feet. Very quick hands and very hard to hit.
Very good, yeah. So I'm interested to see him. Do you know what? We'll start with the main event and talk about Quilly versus Vincent Henderson, because I think it's one of those fights that we always wanted as Irish MMA fans, I think. And this is one of those cards, I think, that we always wanted as Irish MMA fans. We wanted the big names like a Vincent Henderson, like Yoel Romero, and we also wanted the big spots for the Irish fighters, like Peter Quilly is getting here against Vincent Henderson. So if anyone's complaining about this card, I don't know what the fuck you're complaining about, lads, as the biggest complainer in MMA, so sometimes seemingly. Although when I'm on the podcast...
Well, if they pleased you with the card, then they must be doing something right.
Indeed, as long as Daniel Cormier isn't doing the commentary, I'll be fine. Actually, this is to be the one card I would want him to commentate from, because I won't be fucking listening to it, because I'll be there on it. Can't get in Cormier on it. But anyway, as I said, it's a card we kind of dreamed of. I remember talking and doing previews for these, and we're like, oh, why didn't we get Rory McDonald on the card, or why didn't we get MVP? And I know we've had MVP before, but it just felt like we weren't getting those big names. We were getting a Gallagher fight against, someone who was good, but not the biggest name in the world. And then we were getting the rest of the Irish.
What was that English lad, Lee McGeary, fought as well on short notice?
Oh, who was it he fought? That was the one I went at. That was in Belfast.
He came out of retirement. I think.
Rob Broughton or one of them, or something like that. Yeah, but there's been a few tough ones. Actually, coming next week on Patreon, myself and Quilcha have a retrospective podcast about the Bellator days. So we go back to all the old Bama cards and the Bellator for ones as well that were in Ireland, and kind of go through the fighters that were on it and some of the fights were on it. So that's actually a really fun podcast. We've already recorded, so that's out during the week on patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast.
That was Brett McDermott.
Brett McDermott, fair play. This is a completely different main event. Vincent Henderson against Peter Quilly. Look, I think the first thing I want to say about this is when I interviewed both of them, they were on completely different mindsets, I suppose, at the time. Like Vincent, I think it was about 6-7 weeks out from the fight. He was like, I haven't even started training camp or anything. Like I could barely get an answer out of him. He was more caring about going on holiday in Ireland than the actual fight itself. And I just wonder, that obviously that was a good bit out, and I'm sure he's taken it seriously and has been into camp since. But the fact that he has signed a new contract at Bellator, it's his last 4 fights of his career, seemingly. I wonder how he not just prepares for it, but I wonder how he enters this fight mentally, because sometimes you see fighters, and I look, I'm going to say this, but I don't actually necessarily agree with it, but other people have said it, that like once they say the word retirement, they kind of have one foot out the door already. And I just wonder, could that be the opening here for Peter Quilly against someone like Vincent Henderson? Like, my breakdown of the fight, and I don't know what you think of it, Graham, I remember when we talked about Leon Edwards versus Usman. I'm not saying, it's the same level or anything here now, but just go with me for a second. Like, I always thought Usman was a step ahead of Leon Edwards in every facet of the fight, and like for 3.5 rounds that turned out to be correct, I suppose, but obviously it ended the way it did. I feel like this might be a little bit similar. Like what Quilly is good at, I think Vincent Henderson is good at the exact same things almost, but obviously a little bit better considering the level he has got to compared to Quilly. And I think it will take something like, if Quilly fights to 100%, I think it'll still take Vincent Henderson to probably fight down a bit for Quilly to win. But we've seen that in fights before. We've seen lads who are fighting in their hometown with a massive crowd behind them rise further to an occasion than they've ever risen before, and people wilt behind that as well. Now, I don't think Vincent Henderson is the wilting type, but that's the kind of fight breakdown I see from this one. How do you see it? And is there, you've known Quilly for a long time, obviously seen him for a long time as well. He's a guy, I think, who doesn't get enough respect in terms of the fights he takes and the amount of fights he's had and the amount of the amount of tough fights he's taken down through the years. And this is another one, Graham, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's like he's gained experience kind of fighting on short notice kind of all over Europe against the hometown guy, and in the promotion that want him to win, and he's gone through all that kind of tough road to get there. He's picked no easy fights. Even the guys with you look at his record, you see somebody like Joe McColgan there, like early in his career, with maybe not a great record, but like we all on the Irish scene and the UK scene knew how good Joe McColgan is, and he's gone on to show that. So Quilly's like very experienced. But then you look at Benson Henderson's record and you look at the experience he has against the really top level guys, former UFC champion, former WEC champion, but it's not the same guy anymore. He's 38. He definitely has lost some motivation at the very least. I don't know if it'll be a case like when he was talking to you like a month ago or whatever, where he's not even thinking about it. Obviously, he's a professional. He wants to go and win. He doesn't want to go in there and lose. But the motivation level for Quilly, this is like Quilly's been in some big fights. Like, don't get me wrong. Like the two Pitbull fights were huge fights. But I think Benson Henderson, just being a former UFC and WEC champion, being the name that he is, I think it's the biggest fight of Quilly's career. And he's going to want this more. The crowd's going to be on his side. And if Benson Henderson is, not really up for the long haul, drag it out fight, then, Quilly could get this done. But even though Benson Henderson has lost 5 of his last, or what is it? 3 of his last 4. It could have been 4 of the last 4, split decision over Mamedov in the last one was a close fight as well. So there's definitely proof or evidence there that he's on the downturn of his career. But as you said, he's still so well rounded. He's so good everywhere. Maybe he's not fantastic anywhere, but he knows how to win rounds. And Quilly's going to have to, take some shots to give some shots, and I'm sure he's going to be willing to do that. And with the Irish crowd behind him, he's going to lay it all out there. But if going to my head, I'd probably go with a Benson Henderson win, probably by decision. Yeah,
I would tend to agree. I think the route to victory here for Quilly is a long and arduous one, as you kind of alluded to there. I think you will need to drag him 5 rounds and beat him with cardio and use that cardio as a weapon. Now, that's easier said than done against Benson Henderson, someone who has always had great cardio, gone to decisions many, many times, as you said there as well. But you need to prey on a possibility that he's not what he was. You need to you need to bring this. The worst thing
you need to ask him, how much do you want this?
Yeah, you do. You really, and you also can't have this a kind of touchy striker match from the outside, because Benson Henderson will definitely win that fight. There's no doubt about it. Quilly, I think, has to push him against the cage. He has to make it dirty, rotten. If he gets taken down, throw those elbows like he did in the Patricky fight. We'll be talking about the Sandhagen fight later on. Make it a fight like Sandhagen made it. And I was so impressed with how he fought that fight. And it was very interesting to that as well. And I never had Sandhagen down as this type of guy, but I was interested to see how he spoke about himself. He said in the lead up there on the broadcast itself, but in one of the interviews, that I don't have the power of these other guys. I don't have the athleticism and all that. I have to find different ways. I have to find ways of cutting lads up and throwing different techniques to get myself into the fight. I don't have the one shot knockout power that these other lads have. Now, not saying Peter Quilly is like that necessarily. I'm not saying Benson Henderson is big one shot knockout power. I don't think either guy has. If they hit you, they'll knock you out. But in terms of past this prologue, they're there. But I think Peter Quilly needs a similar sort of mindset as Corey Sandhagen had there when he was speaking about it. Do different things, make it that dogfight, make it into something where Benson Henderson doesn't even have a second to get his techniques off. He doesn't even have a second to make this fight easy. I really think that's what he needs to do. As you said, test his want, test his desire, test his cardio, and make it an absolute dogfight for 5 rounds. And then that's where the crowd comes into it as well, because if they see Quilly and he's fighting like that and he's up maybe a couple of rounds, they'll get behind him and it'll turn into a massive occasion. And that's to me his path to victory. There's no big technical breakdown here for me on this one. I think this is all about fucking heart and want and desire. And Peter Quilly has probably more of that than most people, but I still think it's going to be very hard. I do think it's going to be hard to keep and hold Benson Henderson against the cage. I think it's going to be hard to out cardio him. I think it's going to be hard to outwork him. I think it's going to be very, very hard to outstrike him as well, the way Benson Henderson fights and can kind of touch you and keep touching you like that. And we'll see if Quilly can kind of take the damage if it turns into a fight where he is taking a lot of shots. But it's an intriguing fight. It's one I'm definitely looking forward to, and it's a very, very good main event. I wonder, Graham, the mental side for Quilly. Every time I talk to him, it seems like he's getting maybe more mentally strong, and I think the win against Patricky, the win against Ryan Scope, first of all, I remember asking him once, was this a win you kind of needed to have to kind of, get the Miles Price one obviously went badly with the close split decision, but then he came back against Scope, he beat Patricky, and it felt like he was at a better mindset than he ever was. And then obviously the loss to Patricky came as well last year, and it's almost a year since that. I wonder what the mindset is coming in here. Will that win over Patricky be the thing he kind of remembers, and will he take that into the Benson Henderson fight, or will it be almost too much pressure coming out here in the main event in a big fight like this?
Well, when he was speaking with you during the week, I think it was, he was talking about how he thinks he just kind of, made a mistake, and somebody like Pitbull is so quick and powerful that he took advantage of it, and that he had the fight kind of in his hand and let it go. So, confidence wise, it probably isn't as hard to take as just being completely outclassed or, dominated. So, beating Ryan Scope and particularly Pitbull in a row obviously gave him a huge amount of confidence. Like media and fans and all in soccer and all that talk about, or football or whatever, talk about confidence and how important confidence is. We don't really talk about it too much in MMA, but going in there against somebody like Pitbull and beating them at a big stage like that kind of shows you that you belong there. Like, you can kind of believe in yourself or whatever, but it's nice to have it kind of confirmed in your head that I can hang with these guys. I remember like years and years ago, Carl Pendred and Chris Fields went over to AKA and trained with Fitch and Koscheck and all those guys, and they were able to hang with them, and that gave them great confidence, and that's a spar, you know what I mean? So it definitely seems to have Brock Quilly, the way he talks, even the mindset he's given out, or the vibes he's given out seem to be a lot more self-belief since those two fights. And obviously, coming through adversity in the Ryan Scope fight is another thing that you like. He's come through adversity in the past, but in a big spot like that with the crowd behind you, getting that feeling like, that all helps, that all builds towards it. But, obviously losing the Pitbull isn't ideal. But as I said, I think he kind of, in his head, he knows what he did wrong, and he's probably gone back and fixed that and improved from that. And in his head, he's going to go out there in front of his home crowd, big roars, big support, and the biggest fight of his career, and he's going to really bring it to Benson Henderson. And as I said, and as you said, he just has to make it dirty. He has to, he has to not let Benson Henderson get comfortable. He has to break, or not break his will, but push his will, and as I said earlier, make Benson Henderson show that he really wants this. And Quilly, would I be that surprised if Quilly comes out with a victory here? No, but as I said earlier, I'd lean towards Benson Henderson.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. A very, very interesting fight, and we'll see how it goes. I think it's the perfect main event for Ireland, because it is, as I said, that name against the big Irish name as well. So absolutely perfect. What about Yoel Romero versus Melvin Manoff? I think a lot. Do you know what? This is one of those fights that if this was happening in America or Holland or somewhere, I'd probably be like giving out about this fight and saying, jeez, this shouldn't be happening. Yoel Romero is absolutely going to destroy Melvin Manoff. But the fact that I'm actually going to it and I'm going to be at it, I'm like, do you know what? I want to see Yoel Romero versus Melvin Manoff. That's going to be a bit of fun. I just think that, look, Yoel, and I know in his last fight it wasn't necessarily the case. Against Alex Polizzi, he did attack more and things, but in recent fights in the UFC and Bellator, he has been kind of waiting and plodding too much and waiting for that big shot, and I think people have kind of figured him out in some ways. But against Melvin Manoff, I don't think he'd be allowed to wait. Like, Melvin's going to come forward and Melvin's going to throw his shots, and that is surely going to bring the best out of Yoel Romero. Now, it's probably going to bring a big flying knee, a big shot, a big knockout of Melvin Manoff, for being honest. But also, like, Melvin Manoff's a better striker than Yoel Romero. If Yoel strikes with him, like, how well is that going to go for him? Now, if Yoel just goes in and decides to take him down, I think he can do that pretty easily. But we've seen Yoel doesn't really do that too much to people. Although he was in the Polizzi fight where he got a couple of takedowns, if I'm not mistaken. I must go back and watch that. But I'm looking forward to it. Look, if we're being honest, I think Yoel Romero is probably going to get a big knockout here, but I think it's a good fight. It's one of those fights I'm definitely looking forward to. How's your breakdown of this one, Graham?
Yeah, well, I'm hoping Melvin Manoff comes out strong and kind of puts it all on the line, because I think that's his best chance of winning, is kind of just going at Yoel early. Yoel probably, like, if he does feel some big shots, he should go for the takedown. But will he just try to counter like we've seen him a lot of times? Maybe he will. Like, I think this fight can be competitive if Yoel Romero lets it be competitive. If he does kind of stick to a kind of pretty simple game plan, a smart game plan, he should win this fight easily. But with Yoel, you never know. But obviously the pick by a good bit here is Romero. I'd be surprised if Manoff got it done.
Yeah, I'm honestly just looking forward to seeing Yoel Romero in the flesh, to be honest. Do you know what? It's weird. I remember, and I told this story somewhere else as well, but I remember seeing Carl Pendred before the weigh-ins on the Lewis on the weigh-in. I was like, Jesus Christ, this is an absolute Adonis of a man. And the last time as well, when Derek Kelly walked out, I was like, fucking hell, the muscles on this guy looked like an absolute...
The arms on him, yeah.
Yeah. But fucking Yoel Romero I think he's going to take that to another level. So that's what I'm in a very, very weird way. I'm really looking forward to seeing him and making that weight as well. 205 pounds as well, so he'll be even more bulked than usual. I'm looking forward to that. Kieran Clark against George Sassou. I think that is a very, very intriguing fight. I looked at the betting lines that came out. George Sassou is a big underdog here, plus 325, which I think is miles too wide, to be honest. Now, I think I'd probably just about favour Kieran Clark here. But I honestly think this could be a pick-em fight. This could be one of the closest fights on the card, depending on how it goes. Now, if Clark can get in there, take him down early and dominate in that area, I think he can win it, and probably win 30-27 or maybe even get a submission or something like that. But if Sassou can keep him off him, if he can keep striking, like Kieran Clark, I remember the last time, I know, did he say to Andy or was it the last time we were at the media day, but he kind of said that he wants to show off his striking a little bit more. He doesn't want to just be known as kind of a grinder or whatever. I don't think this is the sort of fight for that. And if he does show off his striking, I think it could be a tough one against George Sassou. Like Sassou, I went back and I watched his fight with Bulliad, who is obviously a very, very good striker as well. And I think he did okay early and did well early and looked good early, but Bulliad kind of took over it. I think he found his pace and found how to win the fight against Sassou. I just wonder how this fight is going to go. There's certain ways this fight can go where it's easy for Kieran Clark, and other ways it can go. It'll probably be not necessarily easy for George Sassou, but it'll favour George Sassou, I think. And I just... so sometimes people try to do things to prove a point. I think even maybe Danny McCarron, the last time she went out and she struck with her opponent too much and should have been immediately in, for the takedowns or for immediately... or always keeping away from the striking game, whether if you're going for takedowns or not. But I think this is one of those fights.
The Danny McCormick one is a good example because in her last Bellator fight, she got stung so early that from trying to stand even for a few seconds that she couldn't recover. Yeah. It can only take one strike and then you're oh shit, your game plan's out the window. You can't balance. You're kind of foggy, whatever. So looking at the records here, Sassou, maybe that's part of the reason why he's such a big underdog. But as you mentioned, Elias is a very good striker, very good kickboxer, and that was a split decision. And that was Sassou's first fight in 3 years at the time. And his only other loss on his record was 6.5 years ago. So I think he's a lot better than he looks just as a 4-2 record. But Kieran Clark obviously at 5-0. We see him overcome some adversity, but as you said, if he messes around here on the feet and kind of tries to show off his striking, it's a much riskier proposition than if he goes in there and plays his usual game and grinds and makes it difficult. And then maybe once he's tired out, Sassou, then he can, in the third round, if he's still there, maybe he can show a bit of his striking. That would probably be a better way to go at it. But yeah, if he's going out there to try and show his striking to the world, then I agree with you that he could end up in trouble here.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, we're going to be doing a Bellator preview as well, but a lot of the other lads. We're recording on Monday night. I'm not sure if it's coming out on Monday night. Maybe it is. I'm not sure if we're doing a live preview or not, but we will go more in depth into all these fights. But let's go down through a few more of them here, because I've done my preview as well for Sherdog and studied a lot of these fights, and I think there's a lot of very interesting fights, like the Mads Burnell versus Pedro Carvalho fight. That's
a tough fight for Pedro.
Very tough fight for Pedro. But having said that, Mads Burnell, the same thing I would say for Kieran Clark. Sometimes he goes out there and he tries to prove, and now I'm not saying Kieran Clark actually does it, but I'm kind of hoping he doesn't do that. But Mads Burnell does do that at times. He goes out there and he tries to prove a point strike, and he did that against Barrocks a little bit in his last fight. And if he does that against Pedro Carvalho, Pedro has shown that he can knock lads spark out, and he has big power in his hands. the way to win this fight from Mads Burnell is to get in there, get a takedown, dominate on top, and probably get a submission. And now that's not anything against Pedro. That's just how good Mads Burnell is. I've been saying for a long time, I think he's one of the best featherweights in the world. And obviously the last fight didn't go so great. It was still a close fight, even. It was a very, very good fight, and he would have been fighting for the title or very close to it if he had won that fight. Very tough one for Pedro. Do you see, like, it's very, it's very easy to say, oh, Mads Burnell is going to go in there and he's going to look for the takedown early. It's not always that easy, first of all, to get the takedown at times, but then, a lot of lads don't, immediately go for things anymore. It's not one of those, and we saw even, like the Miles Price, Anthony Pettis fight. Sometimes when you do immediately go for it, it kind of turns against you. And it's very easy for us to sit here and say, oh, Kieran Clark needs to wrestle, Mads Burnell needs to wrestle, but, Pedro Carvalho and George Sassy are going to be ready for them to wrestling. They're going to have something prepared. There's going to be a knee inside there. There's going to be, pushing the head down or an underhook or something like that, or pull him against the cage and turn him out. Not necessarily just that easy, but what do you think he will be able to get it to the ground and win it there? That's probably the more likely outcome in this fight, I would say.
Yeah, well, as you said, I'd say Pedro is, working on uppercuts and knees and stuff like that to try and, punish any sloppy attempts. But I think Mads Burnell will probably try to set it up as soon as he can and get the takedown. Once he hits the ground, he's very good on the ground. Obviously, Pedro's pretty well rounded, but on the ground, I just don't see him being able to hang for too long. Especially if Mads Burnell gets him down early with all the strength and cardio still intact. I think Pedro, he needs to just avoid those takedowns early and land shots as Mads comes in. But I think it's a difficult fight for Pedro. It's tough to implement a game plan against somebody like Mads Burnell if they are relentless with the grappling and the takedowns. But maybe Mads Burnell will play into Pedro's hands and swing a bit on the feet. And Pedro's a bit open on the feet himself, but he's kind of willing to give one to get one, give one to get one.
Get one to give one.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So that's probably Pedro's best route to victory, but that kind of depends on Mads kind of not being able to implement his wrestling and grappling, which is obviously Pedro's probably working very hard on in training camp, staying on his feet. Yeah, but I do think that the safe money would be on Mads getting a submission here.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. Liam McCourt and Dana Silva, then it's an interesting one. I went back and watched Dana Silva's last fight against Janae Harding, and it's one of those fights like, how did Janae lose it? To be honest, I think she kind of got tired, and Silva kind of, she kind of just took over a little bit. She was in there. She had more heart, very good cardio. And I think that's what Leah McCord needs to kind of avoid here. I think she needs to take away the chances for Silva to win this. Look, we know what Leah is like. Very good judo, heavy hips, good on the ground, and that's what she needs to do. It feels like the last 3 fights here in a row have been very similar. It's hard to breakdowns, I suppose, but you need to wrestle, you need to get the fight to the ground. Now, I don't think Dana Silva by any means is an elite striker or anything like that. Now, you could probably say the same for Leah, I suppose, but she's been trying to improve and she's been trying to strike more, and at times she did well against Sinead. Sinead obviously a very, very good striker. I think I'm going to be talking to Leah this week, and I'm looking forward to kind of hearing how she reflects maybe on that Sinead fight, because both from a technical aspect but also from a mental aspect, it was a very, very tough fight. And I think if she goes back and looks at that fight, I think it's a fight you can learn a lot of things from if you are Leah McCourt, and improve from, which is great, to be honest. But also it's one of those ones, it was, you were there as well, Graham, weren't you? It was a tough fight to just be at, even, because the crowd, I've never seen a crowd like it. There was a choke or the Kimura attempt one stage from Sinead, and the crowd were like cheering for Sinead to win, but at the same time like cheering for Leah to get out of it, and it was really weird. They wanted both of them to win, but neither of them to lose, and it was just a mad fight. And to prepare for a fight like that mentally, to kind of recover mentally from a fight like that, and then move on and improve yourself technically. That's I can't imagine. I'm looking forward to asking you about that, but I can't imagine that's an easy thing to do. And I think this fight is more about Leah than Diana Silva altogether, because if she has benefited from that last fight, which honestly I think she probably will have, this could be a massive opportunity for Leah, because I think Diana's there to be taken down. I think she's there to be the opponent that Leah McCourt needs, and if she can go out and she can be confident, I think she can win this fight. How do you see it, Graham? That fight was a very odd fight the last time, wasn't it?
Yeah, it made it more odd that obviously that Sinead injured her ACL in the fight, so Leah must kind of feel, I'd guess anyway, that she feels like it was the kind of fight that she let get away. You know, if you have your opponent kind of compromised in there and you end up losing, probably you think, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. But as you said, there's loads of things to go back, look at that fight and work on, and implemented this fight, and kind of, you know, be more aggressive with her takedown attempts. And once she does get her down, I'd say, you know, she should have a big advantage on the ground and should be able to get a submission more than likely, or dominate the position. But it's not that easy of a fight to, you know, an opponent to bounce back against. If you're going in there a little bit doubting yourself, it could be a long night. But if Leah goes in there and implements her game that we've seen before, and with improvements, and kind of is more kind of aggressive with her grappling, or her wrestling and grappling, and getting it into positions that suit her, then I think she should have enough to get it done here.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. With Georgia Calcanian then against Ken Musa, not to give the same breakdown again, but I think that Georgie isn't going to wrestle Ken in that one and probably win it. If not, actually, I think Georgie can probably win it on the feed as well, to be honest. But that's one that I think it could be a more drawn out, but I definitely fancy Georgie to win that one. Brian Morden against Arivaldo Silva. I don't know how much you've watched of Arivaldo Silva, Graham, but he's a funky fighter, I would say.
I've never seen him before.
No, I went to watch some of his fights, and I found a couple on YouTube, but he himself has uploaded to his YouTube his own fights from like the early days. So a lot of the fights that come up are from him in 2007. And I just like, well, is there any point watching fights from fucking 15 years ago? So this lad...
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, this lad is 40 years of age. He is a jiu-jitsu specialist, I would say, considering his wins are 1 by KO and 11 by submission, and like he's like
guillotines everywhere.
Yeah. I watched him. He reminds me a little bit of Caelan Loughran on the feet. He kind of just stands there, and he's not as good as Caelan Loughran, but the similar sort of style. He just stands there, wait for you to come, and then just throws leather when you come near him, which is, you know, a pretty good way of doing it, I suppose. But a lot of that is too to kind of bring you inside, so we can get you body locks, take you down, and try to submit you. Look, for Brian Moore, I think the game plan here is going to be to work from the outside, jab him up, throw your 1-2s, don't let him catch you inside, use the size of that big cage and kind of stay away from him. And I think Brian Moore is well able to do that. I think it's the sort of fight that Brian has had a few times in recent fights, you know, and he's won those fights against the likes of Jordan Winsky and Simeon Diana, and even San Laban before that. It's a dangerous one, though, because if he makes one mistake, if there's one error in judgment and he ends up on the ground, Silva is really, really good. Now, not saying Brian Moore is bad or anything, but when you end up there with a guy who has that sort of record with that amount of submissions, it's always going to be trouble. But it's a big fight, Graham, for Brian Moore, isn't it? He's had 2 very close ones against Mikhailov and Lugo, 2 guys who are up there, I think both in the rankings, if I'm not mistaken. He could have won both or either of them. He almost finished Mikhailov of after not a great start to that and bounced back well. That Jarnell Lugo fight was an absolute stunning fight in terms of technical fight in Ireland. I don't think we've seen one nearly as good as that. If I'm not, maybe I'm forgetting something, but that was a high level fight. And I just always feel like, and I know you've maybe known Brian longer than me and been around the gym and seen him, I feel like he's always been missing that, or not always been missing, but he's missing that big win. And I think his ability deserves it. Now, I don't think this will be it, but this might be the fight to get back to have the next fight for another big win against another big name. But he has to win this one first. And, I think we all have kind of a soft spot for Brian Moore, and he's one of the I suppose, the OGs of Irish MMA as well, now 35 years of age. But this is a massive fight for him, Graham, isn't he? He needs to win this one.
Yeah, he needs to win this one, especially, after losing 2 in a row, even though, as you mentioned, it was 2 really kind of good guys, even if they are kind of, under the radar, not the biggest names, 2 very tough up-and-comers, and there were 2 close decisions. As you mentioned, he was close to a finish in the Mikhailov one, so it's definitely tough to take for Brian. He's kind of, it's a must win here, but as you said, I haven't seen much of Silva, but from what you've said, it sounds like Brian Moore is going to need to kind of stay patient here and not get overexcited if he does rock Silva and end up in his realm and what he's looking to do out there. So staying patient though, we've seen that from Brian Moore, crisp technical striking, not really giving your opponent openings in your game as much as possible, just keeping it tight and being very technical on the feet and patient. And it sounds like if he goes out there and kind of does what Brian Moore does, he should have enough here to put this guy away on the feet or win a decision more likely by the sounds of things. But having not seen any of Aravaldo Silva, it is hard to know really.
Yeah, indeed. I don't think he'll have much for Brian on the feet, to be honest, and I think that's the path to victory for him here. I also don't think he's I don't think he's the best wrestler in the world. He waits for someone to make a mistake, and as long as Brian doesn't do that, I think he'll be okay here. The rest of the card then, I suppose Dara Kelly is making his second outing for Bellator against Kai Stevens. Watching some of Kai Stevens, I think he's a very, very well-versed fighter. He's very well trained, I would say. Does the right things all the time. He's 3-1 now. You would say the same about Dara Kelly. I was talking to Richard Kiley the other day, and he was telling me how good Dara is. He's been trained very well by Dave Roach, apparently, who's kind of taken him under his wing. And Rich was telling me that Dave Roach is one of the best trainers around there, and I think maybe flying under the radar and maybe not getting the credit he deserves. But Dara Kelly looks a very technical fighter as well, alongside Kai Stevens. I think the difference between the two of them will be that physicality I spoke about earlier. Dara's just so strong, but also fast and athletic. And I think that's going to be the difference here. When you put 2 good technical fighters in there, the most athletic one is going to win. And I think that's going to be Dara Kelly here. And I'm not saying he's just winning on his athleticism, but, I would say that, it's to give praise to Stevens, I think, more than anything else, because he is a good fighter. But I think Dara Kelly will be a little bit ahead. Kenny McAhannon in against Bodnar. Bodnar's one of those lads that is a grinder. He'll make it tough on you. His brother's obviously a fighter as well, and he fights like a lad who's a brother that's a fighter, if you get me. He makes it tough on you. He doesn't give you a second. Kenny can do it all as well. Kenny can strike, and he can, his brother is a fighter as well. So there you go, the 2 brothers fighting against each other. Yeah, I know you've known Kenny for a while, Graham. I remember friends even interviewed him at one stage. It's Kenny's type of guy. He's only been in SBG for maybe a couple of years now, and maybe still getting towards the professionalism maybe of being an MMA fighter at this level, and I'm expecting to see big improvements here. He's a good prospect, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. He has an extensive, a bit of an up and down amateur career as well, but he went in there against people like Leon Hill, beat him. Obviously, he lost to John Mitchell twice, lost to John Byrne. He's been in there. He's taken tough fights. As you said, he's moved gyms recently, and Seems to like his pro debut was on Clan Wars, beat Adam Shelley. That's a very good win. I think this is an appropriate step up. It's not an easy fight, but it's one that Kenny probably expecting to win here and is expected to win. But if he doesn't get it done early, it might be a difficult close fight and be a close decision. But I think I haven't seen much of Bodnar, which is always it's always hard to know exactly how they're going to look. But if you look at his amateur record as well, he's pretty extensive as well, and he's obviously a bit more experienced at a pro, but has a loss there by guillotine a year ago. So these guys are both up and coming. They're probably likely to make a few more mistakes than when they mature and have a bit more experience as a pro. So I expect Kenny to win here, but if he goes out there and then it doesn't go his way, it's not the end of the world. It's the first loss. So I think obviously it's a big spot for Kenny here, and there's a lot of people expecting a lot from him. But it's hard to know with these guys early on exactly where they are. We haven't really seen them overcome a lot of adversity, or we haven't seen them in all the positions that maybe we need to, and we haven't seen maybe holes that are in their game or holes that aren't in their game. So no matter what happens here, this will be a great learning experience. But I would expect Kenny to go out there and probably get a TKO win.
Yeah, indeed. The last 4 fights in, I suppose, Dante Shiro against Luke Pilat, Kirill Slednikov against Kazim Aras in the heavyweight division, and also Asel Lajou, who we mentioned earlier on, against Jordan Bartman. That should be a fun one. But the standout, I suppose, in the early prelims here, Carlisle Braxton versus Carl Moore. What a fucking fight this is. Carlisle Braxton has an extensive record, and if you see the names that are on his record, he beat Yashimurdov last time out, but he's a win over Viktor Nimkov. He's a win over Vadim Nimkov. He's fought Valentin Moldavsky, the former champion at heavyweight. Fought Yuri Prohachka as well, and fought obviously Phil Davis when he came into Bellator. Now he lost against Prohachka and Davis, but he has a win over Vadim Nimkov, the champion, and that means a lot. Like, if he wins this, he'd be right up there as well towards the top of that division, and that's a massive thing for Carl Moore as well. Carl Moore goes in there and he beats Carlisle Braxton. That means a lot. Carl is a guy who's had a lot of talent, but hasn't had a lot of luck. Maybe he's I suppose Carl's around 30 now. He's or maybe a little bit more than that, and he's only had one fight in the last 4 years since he lost that fight to Mauro Sorelli. He beat Lee Chadwick in 2019. He was supposed to fight in 2020. That fell through, and now he's fighting in his second Bellator fight, 3 years on. And I remember, Carl Moore, when he was coming through and when he was about to take that Mauro Sorelli fight, it was to become the double champ in Cage Warriors, and everyone was talking about him, the next McGregor and the next star and all, and it just hasn't happened for him. But this is a massive opportunity, Graham, to get back into that, isn't it? And Carl is a big, tough man and hits hard and is a good wrestler and grappler as well. It's not an easy fight by any means. I think Carlisle Braxton will be a massive favourite here, but Carl Moore, it's a big opportunity for him.
Yeah, it is. It's a big opportunity. Obviously, he's had a tough time recently. He hasn't fought in 3 years since that split decision win over Lee Chadwick, and obviously before that he was on the prefaces of becoming the double.
You're just repeating exactly what I said.
Light heavyweight and heavyweight champion, and and that's hard to take. He's had. That's hard to take when you've been so close to fighting for the UFC, and then you go in there and you pick up a close decision win in your next fight a year and a half later, and then you're with injuries and fight cancellations and all that stuff. You're waiting 3 years to fight again. This has been a tough time for Carl. Watching all his teammates kind of progressing, and he's not in terms of his fight career. Obviously he's been in the gym, and he hopefully he's been developing and getting better. We haven't seen him, so it's so hard to know what he's going to look like. Is he going to look rusty, or is he going to look like a new Carl Moore? Is he going to be the same guy, or is he going to be better, or is he going to be worse? We really don't know what Carl Moore is going to come out here, and it's a really tough test. Even if an improved Carl Moore does come out here, he might end up on the wrong side against of a finish here or decision here. Like, this is a very tough fight, as you mentioned. Like, there's a who's who on this guy's record. So yeah, this is a really tough fight after all the adversity, all the disappointment, and all the time out of the cage. This is a big ask, in my opinion, for Conmore.
Yeah, it is a massive tough one, all right, and you'd have to favour Braxton there, I think. But that's the card in full. Looking forward to going up there. I'm sure a lot of people listening will be at it as well. If you see us, come over and say hello. Graham will be charging 15 quid for pictures, Graham, isn't it?
No photos. No photos.
Oh yeah, sorry, you'll have the hood up and all that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to going and seeing these fights. It's a great night of fights, and sure, if you're around, let us know and we'll have a bit of a chat. But let's talk about the UFC from last night. Very, very good, smart, detailed game plan from Corey Sandhagen. It was one of those ones where I really wasn't expecting him to fight the way he did. I thought he would be way more fighting on the outside, trying to avoid the power of Song, trying to maybe throw a few leg kicks, throwing that flying knee. We did throw the flying knee a few times, but in a very different sort of way, I suppose. But it was a game plan in which he just tried to take away the pop from Song. You know, he just pushed him against the cage for a couple of rounds, and by the time like the 7, 8, maybe 10, 11 minute mark came, Song Yadong just no longer had to pop any shots. I don't think his gas tank depleted massively. I still think he was going. He was absolutely still going, but I just think he didn't have that pop in his hands. Now the cut as well was absolutely a massive part, but I think the bigger picture of it's probably not the bigger picture. The cut is the big picture here, but absolutely without a shadow of a doubt, I think the game plan of Corey Sandhagen was absolutely phenomenal, and I think he deserves credit for that. And I came out afterwards in the press conference. I was listening to a few minutes of it, and he was like saying, you know, I feel sorry for him, and I don't want to fight to end that way. You know, he cut him open. You know, that's a genuine way to win the fight. The referee and the doctor gave Song plenty of time. We'll get into the ones of the fight in a second here, but I thought the performance from Sandhagen was a different performance for him, but very good. What did you think of it, Graham?
Yeah, I thought it was very good. You know, I agree with a lot of things you said. I thought it was going to be, I thought he'd have more success with his kind of takedown attempts and grappling, but Song's takedowns, especially in the first couple of rounds, takedown defense was very, very good. You know, he had obviously drilled it a lot in training. Even when Sandhagen was changing levels, you could see Song sprawl heavy to avoid that, because obviously he knows Sandhagen's dangerous on the ground. Doesn't want to get stuck there and kind of lose the pop in his shots. That was gonna be the route to victory for him in this fight. So I think Song looked a little bit better than I expected, but I think Sandhagen just had too much for him. Stayed patient. You know, he really does fight to the kind of the best of his abilities. You know what I mean? He kind of said it himself, and you kind of mentioned it. But not having that power against a really powerful guy like Song, you know, it's easy to lose rounds with just one impactful strike in that round. Kind of undoes a lot of your work when you're not a heavy hitter, when you're kind of a volume guy without, you know, being a heavy hitter. So he kind of has to work around that, and he's found a really good way of doing it. He keeps you guessing the whole time. He mixes it up really well, and he stayed patient, and, you know, he did a really good job, like, opening up that cut. He obviously has worked on that. He threw a lot of those kind of sharp elbows whenever he got the chance, and he could have opened up more cuts. You know, he landed a couple of other nice glancing elbows, and the cut he did open up was a nasty cut. Like, it was getting bigger and bigger as the rounds went on, and the doctor, in fairness to him, was willing to let fights go. Like, you know, the fight before, like, he let it go when there was a huge cut, and he let this fight go between rounds a couple of times when it was a big cut, and the commentators were kind of questioning whether it should go on or not. But in the end, the cut had become so big that the doctor rightly stopped it, in my opinion. And I don't see why, like, you know, Sandhagen maybe in the moment, you know, thought it was a bit of a letdown. But when he looks back on it, I think, you know, that's a more than legit win, and it was a fantastic performance really from Sandhagen.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, even from Song, I think it was a really good performance as well.
It wasn't bad, yeah. I think the one thing Sandhagen showed in this, maybe, and I think I was actually just tuned into the Sherdog post show, and they kind of said that the variety was it, and I would tend to agree with that. But he showed more kind of different ways of thinking as well, and different game plans even in the fight. Like, it was the attempted takedowns. Now, I don't think did he get any takedown? He was 0 for 8 at one stage, but that didn't matter.
Yeah,
it was about wearing him down, and like the strikes.
You could also see that Song was thinking about it, because he changed level. He would sprawl hard, and, you know, having that in your mind,
it does,
you can't be as comfortable on what your offense is going to be.
Yeah, and the thing about it, Song won the first round, even though Corey fought the way he fought. But I think he was happy enough to give up that first round. Corey got hurt early in the second round as well, which maybe it's easy to forget. So the fact that he came back after that as well, those flying knees were all miles off. But that elbow, it definitely changed the fight, but it also just helped Sandhagen along in his game plan, if we want to put it that way. He targeted it in after as well, which I thought was really, really smart, but nasty, I suppose, as well at the same time. And I think it was...
you have to do it, though.
You have to do it, yeah, you have to do it. You could see in the third round that eye was just... It was really affecting him. The power was gone from his shots. And even when Sandhagen put him in the clinch, I think there was less kind of coming back from him. There was some lovely shots late as well from Corey in the third round, and he did manage to land the flying knee in that. In the fourth, Corey was kind of just smashing him up, got a takedown. He eventually did get a takedown about 90 seconds in. Actually, Song got a takedown 90 seconds in, but Corey got up, and then Corey got a takedown of his own. Song got up as well. Then Corey got another takedown, and that's where he kind of got on top, put the fingers in the cut, but he landed some elbows as well, and I think those elbows made it even worse and forced the doctor and Herb Dean to stop it towards the end of that round, or at the end of that round even. I think they gave him plenty of time, they gave him plenty of an opportunity, probably a late stoppage even, I would say, but at the same time, you know, you have to give a guy an opportunity, and they did that here. So a lot of people talking about Corey Sandhagen versus Chito Vera now. I think that's a fucking wonderful fight, and I'm absolutely behind that. So let's go forward and make that. We'll run through the rest of the card. Gregory Rodriguez and Chidi Bang Bang Inja Kawani. What a comeback from Rodriguez.
Jesus Christ, that fucking, the first, that cut that opened up and that shot on the knee as he came in, that was fucking ridiculous. Vicious. How he survived that, and especially without being wobbly afterwards, it's just unbelievable.
He is a madman. Someone said, I think Paul Felder said,
you could see like into his head afterwards.
God. I said it to one of my friends, like, that's a nice big vein there. Like, yeah, it absolutely is.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, Paul Felder said he's become one of his favourite fighters, and how could he not be? I suppose he always absolutely brings it. That cut, like, if people haven't seen the fight or anything, it's a cut, like the bridge of your nose, basically, or the higher bridge of your nose, maybe the higher part of your nose, like separated like his forehead.
Think of Liam or no Gallagher with the unibrow. He basically had like a unibrow cut. The middle was like skull veins.
It was absolutely disgusting. But at the start of the second round, like the commentary again, absolutely awful. just horrendous. They missed Rodriguez just destroying Chidi because they were looking at who Mark Smith, I think, was the referee. Absolutely completely missing. They're like, Rodriguez is winning the fight. They're like, what are you talking about? He's absolutely destroying Chidi at the end of the first, and at the start of the second, Chidi looked tired and hurt and everything, and he managed to get the finish in. But God, the commentary was so bad throughout tonight. Daniel Cormier trying to explain the 3Ds.
The 3Ds. Yeah. I was waiting for you to bring that up.
Oh my God. I can't.
Do you give him points for effort, do you?
No, it was just so funny and bad. Like it was just ridiculous. Like, he's the. I hear him at one stage. He's like, "We understand judging more now," as he talks about for the millionth time if that counts as a takedown or not. What the fuck are you talking about, you dummy?
Well, he's on top of him, so
the fight's on the ground. It's like, what does it matter? Oh my God! Oh Jesus Christ! He's one of the dumbest human beings to ever live. Like, when is this gonna end? When is this pain gonna end? Listen to fucking Daniel Cormier.
He's gonna be getting a $1 million check in the post for Christmas. Don't worry.
Give him $1 million check to shut the fuck up. It'll be a lot better. Oh Jesus. Anyway,
I thought you were trying to be nice to
I can't. I just can't do it. I can't keep up this. I can't keep up this facade. He's terrible. Anyway, fair play to Rodriguez. Andre Fili. Then this was an interesting fight. He was landing loads of head kicks in the first round, not getting drawn in, winning on the outside. Second was a lot closer. Aljo was landing jabs. Fili was still landing hard, landed some nice body kicks. I thought Fili won the second as well. I think all three judges gave the second to Aljo, if I'm not mistaken. And then the third was a very interesting round. Fili was close to rear naked choke, kind of. But then Aljo landed about 100 strikes from being body triangled. And like, I gave him the round, but it was one of those rounds where I can absolutely, if your opinion is Andre Fili was closer to finishing it because he had the rear naked choke, no problem at all with that. I can definitely understand that. But like, if you can't understand someone taking about 50 strikes and
like, hit hard with them. 8 or 9 of them were actually pretty good shots, and you could see Andre Fili react to them and try to block them and kind of forget about the choke position for a minute and kind of get his head out of the way and stop eating those punches. So yeah, that's a really difficult round. You know, how much weight are you giving to the rear naked choke attempt, and how much are you giving to those punches? That's a tough one. Like I went Aljo, but I don't know. I'd have to rewatch it, but it's a tough one. It's a good round to kind of look at, and you know, obviously it's not the most important fight in the world, but that round swung the fight. You know, that round swung the fight, and it is a difficult one to know how to judge. Like, having not being in that position, how close was that submission?
Yeah,
personally,
I didn't think it was there.
I don't know. Yeah, but how much impact are actually in those punches? Are they just annoying? And Andre Fili's thinking, "Oh, I'm eating a lot of I'm eating a lot of these. Maybe the judges will think these are more impactful than they are. I better move out of the way." Or are they actually impactful that he moves out of the way? It's really difficult to know.
I think, and this people probably disagree with this, I think generally we score effective grappling when it is a grappling like this higher than we do strikes. And I think even scoring that rear naked choke attempt highly, I just think those strikes were a little bit too much. Now, if you say that's maybe even, I think Fili was probably winning before that. So if you want to give Fili the round on that, but it was very close, I'd have no problem with that even. I just like those strikes. How did you score the second? I gave it to Fili. I saw a lot of people though were giving it to Aljo. Who'd you score it for?
Yeah, I actually gave it to Aljo, but I was
very
Aljo
unsure. Winning?
Yeah, I think so. I think I really don't know. I'm really undecided on that round.
Yeah, it was a close fight and a close round, but
yeah,
I just thought Fili was
like you don't know when you're watching it the first time that it's going to be this thing, and maybe if I went back and watched it, I've kind of forgotten a bit of the work that went on before that. So maybe the work Fili did early was enough. I'd have to go back and watch it, but when the round ended, I really wasn't sure. I just, you know, you have to make a kind of call. You don't want to sit in your head. You're thinking probably would have gone Aljo, but I'd have to watch it again because it was razor close. 100%.
Joe Pyfer then got a big knockout. He seems to be a Dana White favourite after coming from the Contender Series. Good stuff there from him. Nascimento then, he won 1 and 3. Both guys were kind of hurt in the second. Buzzer won the round after being hurt early and almost subbed late, I would say, in that one. But Nascimento ended up getting the split decision there. Fluffy Hernandez then, he got the win, dominated. There was a slam here, Graham, and I saw some people were calling it illegal. I think it was borderline, but I think it was legal. I looked up the rule, and the rule was like, you have to kind of point the feet or the toes up towards the sky and then drop him straight down. I don't think Hernandez did that. I think he had him kind of sideways and slammed him down, which is by the rule book I would say legal, but maybe that shouldn't be legal. But I think it was okay, to be honest, but it looked very bad because it was right in the top of his head.
I don't think it was on purpose. I think he just was trying to slam him down, and it happened. But I do think that should be illegal. That's extremely dangerous. I think he kind of came down on his arm a little bit as well, which probably saved a lot of the impact. But that, that could have been very, very bad. Like we've seen, Irish fighter Ian Coughlin. What happened to him just from grappling in training and landing on your head is so dangerous.
Yeah, I would 100% agree. I think legal, but probably should be illegal. Yeah, very, very dangerous. But a good win for Fluffy Hernandez. Outside of that, as you said, I don't think anyone thinks he meant to do it the way he did it. But good submission with the arm triangle in the end after that as well. Damon Jackson, geez, what an emotional fight this was. Went in there and just absolutely destroyed Pat Sabatini inside of a round, front kick to the face. Sabatini ducked in, massive ground and pound, and they mentioned in that his brother died last week, and some of his family were there, and it was really, really sad. And obviously delighted for him to win in a situation like that, but Jesus, it was really, really tough. And there was a few, I think Feely as well said he lost a child after a couple of weeks ago or a while back, and this was obviously his first fight since. It was very emotional.
Yeah, I think his wife was pregnant and lost a child.
Yeah, and then Luma Lookboom as well was talking in the press conference after. Very, very emotional night all around, and she had obviously a good win. She win over unanimous decision over Denise Gomez, landing some power shots there as well. So yeah, it was just one of those nights to be honest. But and a tough week. So obviously we must mention here as well. Elias Teodoro passed away, and that's very, very sad. Myself and Quilcha talked about that more in depth. But geez, it's been a tough week for MMA in general, and sometimes it's easy. We sit here and we talk about these fighters, and we make an assumption about this and that, and you fight this way. Well, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. You really, really don't. And we do mention that, and we say it a lot, but we don't probably say it enough, and maybe that should always be the backbone of things like this. Like, it's easy for us to say, this guy needs to go out and he needs to do a submission, but what has that guy been doing for the last 2 weeks? Like, has he been able to train, or has there been something else going on in his life, or has he, it's tough. These fighters are human beings as well, and we must we must respect that and talk more about it. And that's why I give John Anik there a few weeks ago great praise, because I think he does a good job of humanizing the fighters, and I love to see when people come out and speak like Luma did here, or when they come out afterwards in the press conference or whatever it is, and speak their mind as they absolutely should. And it was obviously sad but great to see at the same time as well. And it was a tough night all around. To get on to the rest of the card, the tough transition here, but Kosk against Giles, one of the worst fights of the year. No, they were like, oh yeah, I'm going to be very nice to the fighters, and then I said that. God almighty, though, this one was an absolute snooze fest. 15 minutes of nothing. Trevin Giles ended up winning. Trey Ogden beat Daniel Zellhuber. I watched a bit of Zellhuber beforehand, and I was like, geez, this guy's good. He's a lot of talent, and then shoddy enough game plan and badly executed. Trey Ogden, again, he won for the first time. I like Trey Ogden, but yeah, I think, I don't know, Zellhuber just didn't do it, and that's unfortunate. Jillian Robertson got a lovely rear naked choke against Agapova. Lost the first round rear naked choke in the second. Agapova nearly bit her fucking tongue off. This was absolutely disgusting. One of the most disgusting nights as well in the history of MMA, with all the cuts and fucking Agapova nearly biting her tongue off. It was absolutely awful. Also, there was 3 fighters in this card with tape on their ears, which I don't think I've ever seen before. Agapova had it, Feely had it, and someone else. Was there someone? Was it? I don't know, someone else had it as well, but anyway, then Javid Basharat, this guy is, I'm going to say it, Graham, this guy is championship material. He reminds me of Conor McGregor. He's that good. He is phenomenal. Now, I thought Tony Gravely was maybe even going to win this fight. I thought he was a bad matchup. He's this wrestler test. That's probably, I was talking to Harry about it. Like, we were both kind of saying, this is a bit too early. But by God, it wasn't. He looked brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. cut after a head clash as well early, landed way more shots. Tony was managing to get inside, but he just wasn't strong enough. Won the second round easy after he got on top and landed strikes, but he just jabbed him up in the third round. Absolutely brilliant from Basharat. And do you know what he looks like as well? Why he reminds me of McGregor a little bit? He's so much bigger than a lot of these guys at 135 pounds as well, and he kind of bullies them around the place. I am very, very impressed with him. Very impressed. What did you think of him, Graham? Am I going overboard?
Yeah, he looked really good. Like, you know, I don't think Gravely looked great. You know, obviously he wasn't able to implement his game. He probably was expecting to go in there and be able to get the wrestling at least attempts going a bit easier, and maybe work his way into tiring him out, into tiring Basharat out. But Basharat was just too good everywhere, just absolutely dominated, even in the wrestling, the grappling. You know, he didn't really pose, Gravely didn't really pose any questions for him. Yeah, it's hard to say how far he'll go. You know,
like the dog doesn't like the dog isn't a fan of it. The dog's not a fan of Basharat. Dog's not a fan of it, but yeah, you know,
I'm always a bit wary of calling guys this early. You know, we haven't really seen them against too many kind of proven entities in the UFC. Like, you look back at his recent record, there's a guy who's 2-39 on there. You know, 3 years ago he's fighting guys who were 2-39.
Is it Luke?
John Spencer. John Spencer. Yeah. So yeah, obviously that's not great. But since then he's obviously stepped up, and he has a Contender Series. He went out there and beat a 16-0 guy. So yeah, he definitely has a lot of potential. He looked really good, but until he goes out there against somebody who's kind of a known quantity, even like a rankings gatekeeper, it's very hard for me to put too much hype behind him. I'm
hyping him up to the moon for jabbing.
I'm wary now. I used to jump on hype bandwagons easier, but now I'm a wary old man.
Indeed. So that was it. Nicholas Mata got a big knockout as well over Cameron Van Camp. Fair play to him. So yeah, we will leave it there. You didn't see the Canelo and Triple G bout, did you, Graham, by any chance?
No.
Idiotically set up for the fucking snooze fest.
Oh God! Yeah, again, you fell for the boxing trick again. I
fell for it again. But God damn it. Yeah, it wasn't that bad, to be fair, but it was...
Who won, or was it a draw, or what?
Canelo won. It was one of those ones, right, where the first round was very close, right? Canelo destroyed him for the next 6 rounds, and in the last 5 rounds were close. So, like, not that it could have gone either way. Canelo definitely won it, but, like...
Could have been a draw.
It was 115, 113, and people were up in arms about it. But actually, I don't think there was much wrong with that score, to be honest. But it was weird because one guy dominated the majority of the fight. Could have won 12 rounds to 0 for being out. I don't know. There was like 2 rounds that he definitely lost. But it was a funny one.
How up rules of like scoring on boxing are you?
Not really at all.
I don't really know. I'm always kind of I don't really know how boxing scored, because we're probably these idiots. We're probably like the Daniel Cormiers of talking shit about rounds and how they're scored in boxing.
The Daniel Cormier boxing scorer. Yeah, we are indeed probably. But yeah, I think boxing is a bit more straightforward in that who like lands the harder, better punches, I suppose. You know, it's or who lands the cleaner work if there isn't big harder punches, where there's grappling and other stuff added into MMA as well. It's a little bit more complicated. But yeah, it was do you know what? Everyone was saying Triple G looked old, and he fucking did, but I thought Canelo looked a bit old. Canelo's not that old, but he's had a lot of fucking bouts, and he's a lot of wear and tear in that body. And yeah, he lost his last bout as well against Bivol, I think it was, but gone up in weights. But yeah, Triple G opened up for like 2 rounds, and he hit Canelo a few times and hurt him more than Canelo hurt him at any stage during the fight or during the bout even. And yeah, it was a kind, not sad to see, I wouldn't say, but it wasn't great, to be honest. But yeah, anyway, we will leave it at that, lads. Thanks everyone for listening. As we said, a big week this week. Support us on patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast. Hotels in Dublin are dear as fuck, so please do that. We need it this month. I need it anyway. You're grand. You have to get a fucking taxi in or a fucking a lift in or whatever. You'll be fine. But Sean used to pay a fucking grand to go up to Dublin to watch fucking Bellator. Anyway, right, we leave it there, lads. Not to be giving out or anything. Not to be complaining or giving out, but look, right, we leave it there, lads. All we have left to do is get Graham's quote of the week. Graham.
Why are you on your own tonight? If you're so clever, then why are you on your own tonight? If you're so very entertaining, then why are you on your own tonight? If you're so very good looking, then why do you sleep alone tonight? I know, because tonight is just like every other night. That's why you're on your own tonight.
We'll see you next Tuesday. Or, no.
That was a bizarre one.